They said the AES would collapse. So what are they afraid of now? They said the AES wouldn't survive. They said sanction would work. They said isolation would work. They said the alliance would collapse under pressure. But here we are today, and that raises a very uncomfortable question. If the alliance was supposed to fall, why is the struggle for influence in the Sahel still so intense? Welcome back to the West Best Media, because something doesn't add up. When a project is collapsing, people usually moved away or moved on. But that doesn't seem to be happening in the AES. In fact, the opposite appeared to be happening. Because if the story was already over, nobody would still be fighting over influence in the region. Let me ask you something. Did the pressure campaign achieve its objective? Or did it produce the opposite results? Leave your answer in the comment below. Now let's look at what's happening next. Burkina Faso stood with Mali. Niger stood with Mali. Instead of division, the alliance appeared to become more united. And that raises what may be the most important question in this entire story. Are some people trying to stop the completed unification of the Sahel? Think about it. If pressure was supposed to weaken the alliance, why does the alliance appear more united today? If isolation was supposed to create division, why are the member states appearing closer today, together? Because if this trend continues, the conversation may no longer be about three separate countries. It may become a conversation about a political, economical, and security bloc moving in the same direction. And if that's even possible, it could explain why the struggle for influence in the region remains so intense. Here's the question I want you to think about. If the AES becomes more politically, economically integrated, what would be the biggest impact on West Africa? Trade, security, political independence? Tell me what you think in the comment. But here's another development that deserves attention, because all the pressure, after all the prediction, and after all the warning, a different conversation is beginning to emerge. The conversation is no longer about whether the AES will survive. The conversation is about what comes next. Because if the alliance was supposed to collapse, yet remained standing, then the next question becomes unavoidable. What happened if the AES moved from surviving to building? And what happened if the alliance eventually developed its own currency? Think about that for a moment. How would that affect neighboring countries? And what message would it send across the rest of the Sahel? Because a common currency is more than money. It is a statement about who will shape the future of the region. And what would that mean for countries that have historically held significant influence in the Sahel? What would it mean for France? What would it mean for international finance institutions? What would it mean for countries competing for influence in Africa? Because if the alliance reached that stage, the conversation could shift dramatically, not just inside Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, but across West Africa, which raises another question. Are some people worried less about what the AES today and more about what it could become tomorrow? And if that is the real concern, then the battle for influence in the Sahel may be far from over. Which brings us back to where we started. They said the AES would collapse. It didn't. They said pressure would divide the alliance. Yet the alliance appeared more united. They said isolation would weaken the region. So what exactly are people afraid of now? The AES story is far from over. If you enjoy this type of analysis, subscribe to West Best Media and join the conversation. And before you go, click the video on the screen right now. AES got stronger when they attacked Mali, because that story helps explain everything we're seeing today.